Okay, so let's get to the 3-point takedown. What's the big gripe here?
It's again, this is my maybe I'm wrong, but my whole thing is we try to make rules that create action, right? I mean, isn't that kind of what that was? That was my perception. Like these rule changes are going to try to create action, which is fine. It seemed to me like last year the riding was always kind of the riding. People didn't like it. It's not exciting. You don't want to see a guy just ride a guy and not turn him. And it was about creating action. I mean, are we all in agreement on that? Like heading into the rules, my thought, I want to get your guys' thought, was with these rule changes, they are going to try to increase the action. That's the overall core objective.
I mean, I feel like that's a common platitude in wrestling. Everyone's always talking about that. Whereas I watched the semis and I watched all the NCAAs, and I thought this was good action. These were good competitive matches. They were fun. Yep. I didn't really see an issue besides some of the stalling on top. That was the one thing I said all year. I've been consistent, and that's how I feel.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Ben. And I think you bring up a good point where it's like, man, we just had. I mean, I've talked to people that have been at that tournament for 50 years, and they said that's the best NCAA tournament we've had ever. The finals were electric, a lot of great action. So it just puzzled me, like, state of the sport from that standpoint, to have such a big rule change. Like that is a big time rule change. And I just don't think, and I haven't dug in the data, and I'm a guy too, I like data sometimes, but I'm not always about data, like go to the data all the time. I mean, sometimes it's, there's a, give and take to that. But at the end of the day, I appreciate all positions, and I want to see those positions like accounted for pretty much equally. Like, yes. So I just think the ratio's out of whack with a 3-point takedown to a 1-point escape. A 2-point takedown is double. Like it is double the point value as an escape. And as we saw this last year, getting out from on bottom is not easy. That's where this kind of whole thing came from. Guys are so good on top. It is extremely difficult to get out from on bottom. It's hard. It should be worth a point. A takedown is worth double, which makes sense. Taking a guy down is difficult. 2 points. Turning them is really hard. That's double. Like the ratio seemed to me like they were intact. I do not think in any way, shape, or form a 3-point takedown is going to cause people to be more aggressive on their feet. I don't see, like, all of a sudden now guys are going to be going at it so much harder on their feet. I think that is just not, you're either aggressive or you're not. And a point value on a takedown, like all of a sudden we're not going to see some of these guys that typically don't score takedowns. Like all of a sudden they're going to show up this next season and be dynamic on their feet. Like it's just, we'll see, guys. We'll see. I'm willing to say, hey, let's give it a try and see what happens. But on the surface, I just thought it was unnecessary. I don't know why. I just thought it was unnecessary.
Yeah. That's how I feel.
Okay. So I guess my whole point in this little exercise is, well, it was for Shane, because we went through all the rules. He liked all but one of them. But he declared the death of folk style. I think that was, maybe we could look back and say this was a slight overreaction on the part of Spartan.
It might have been. I've been known to overreact from time to time. I mean, we'll see what happens, guys. We'll see what happens. Now, I will throw this out there real quick, though. This is the one part of this debate that drives me. This is one where I will die on the sword. Okay, I'll tell you what drives, because it's such a. This is the one I don't like. Okay. I get a takedown. You escape because I basically don't try on the mat. I want to be on my feet, which is fine. That's fine. I want to be on my feet, so I'm going to punt a position. So I take you down, basically let you up. And then, God, I'm getting this screwed up.
Uh-oh.
And then I go on bottom and I escape in the second period, and now it's 2-2. And it's like, now maybe you get another takedown, you let me up, and it's 4-3. And it's like, oh, man, I've been dominating this guy. I took him down twice, and I'm only winning 4-3. Well, that's your fault. That is so, like, that's.
I agree. Well, Shane, I'm going to back you up here because I have challenged everyone I know, including one Christian Piles and David Bray, to name me one folk style result, one singular match who had the wrong outcome because of the scoring system.
Yes.
They can't find one.
Can't. Ben, I will say this, and I think most of us, I think, are on the same page on a lot of stuff. But Ben, I got to tell you, and I don't need to tell you, I don't need to be the president of the Ben Askren Club, but whether I'm watching your Mental Mondays or listening on Flow Radio, like, I can't think of a time where I disagree with you. Like, I'm always like, Christian. Yes. And I'm with you. I will admit this, guys. I do feel a little more validated when Ben tells me he agrees. Because sometimes I feel like people are like, oh, that's crazy, Shane. I'm like, really? Because I've argued this with people, and they'll be like, that's not fair that so-and-so takes them down twice, and they're only up 4-3. It's like, that is dumb. Like that's well,
Shane, if they can't come up with one result, they can come up with a few results that are maybe closer, but they can't come up with one result that's the wrong way. And that's the issue. That with the argument, it needs to be 3 points. And generally, even when they are closer like that, like it's 3 takedowns and somehow it's 6-5, it's because the one dude sucks on top and won't choose bottom.
Absolutely. Like, you can't, and that's why, Christian, when you talk about, and again, probably, a little bit of an overstatement from me saying folk style's dead, but every position is important. Like, they're all important. You've got to be able to wrestle all 3 positions to win. And if you're not, if you want to punt on a position, I will never feel sorry for you for losing, ever. Like, that's your choice. You do what you want to do, but that's where I don't like to put more emphasis on certain positions. I like to see them all equal, bottom, top, neutral. Like, I want to see them all like that, not like the scales like this. Keep it balanced.
I agree.
Okay, so I would say, one, you can't just you don't. It's not a trump card to say, "Oh, name a match," or your argument is wrong. That's not true. The entire premise of my argument, one, is the ratio doesn't make sense. Takedown to escape, but
how doesn't it make sense?
Hold on. I didn't even get to say 2 yet. So 2.
Well, we got a problem with 1. We're coming after you.
All right, then this is my new 1, and that one is now 2. Number 1, I believe the skill required to get a takedown is worth 3 times as much as the skill required to get an escape.
How do you figure that, Chris?
I think that I ran the numbers. I crunched
Shane
them.
Sparks on top of you, and you'll figure out what's harder.
I mean, seriously though, guys, how many? And I know I'm using extreme examples here. I know I'm using extreme examples, but how many points do you think Frank Molinaro would have been willing to give up on the bottom of Kyle Dake? He probably would have said, "Give me to my feet, and I'll give you 4 points for an escape." Like, getting an escape, guys, is hard. Christian, how can you say that it's a 3-to-1 ratio? That is absurd to me.
You don't think there's well, yeah, you use the most extreme example to prove your point.
I can give you a bunch of them, guys. Look at it's hard to get out from on bottom, guys. It's hard. It's worth a point.
I don't think so.
It is hard. It's not easy.
I'm not saying it's easy.
You're saying it's easy.
I'm saying takedowns. No. I'm saying the ratio of difficulty, just like kicking a field goal in football, is not worth as much as a touchdown, because a touchdown is harder to do.
It's half.
I think it is easier to. Yeah, I think a takedown almost half. Yeah, it's half. I think getting a takedown should be worth more than double an escape point. That's just my opinion.
That's your like. I can't tell you that you're wrong. I'm just in my. So we'll just. This is the classic. We'll agree to disagree, but it's.
I don't.
Christian, it's double. Like double. That's. You're saying think about what you just did, Christian, but like mathematically, think about this. I'm saying it's 200 to 100. There's not a scenario here where it's like, okay, like I'm reasonable, Christian. I might give you this. You know what, Christian? I see where you're coming from.
Give it to me.
If there was a way to call it 2.25 points, I'll give you that. But we can't go to 3, right? That's seriously. You can't go if you want to go 2 to 1. I can give you a little flexibility and say 2.25 points, like 225 to 100. Fine, but you can't go to 3. You can't have it a 300 to 100, a 3-to-1 ratio. That is absurd, guys. I mean, that is.
What about
Shane with the 2
What if it's
You know what, guys? Here's one. If you gave me the magic wand, I'll give you one. If you gave me the magic wand on the takedown, I'll tell you one thing I would sign off for 100%, and I would love to see this, although it adds, again, more confusion and more intricacies to the rules. I'd love to see a 3-point takedown in the final 30 seconds of a period.
No, you stop. You just
Really?
stop right now, Shane Sparks.
All right. I thought
No.
because I liked it. Now that would create action. Like that to me would create some urgency and more action.
Yeah.
No,
So
can't reward it differently.
Okay. All right.
all right, we'll go 2.25 for a takedown.
Yeah,
That's
2.25. I'm
that's
reasonable, Christian. But to swing it, it's like this, Christian. It's like this. It's here's the scale. That's fine. This is fine, but you're going like this.
I mean,
It's
you know what,
too
Christian? The actual ratio that I think you could be arguing is incongruent with skill, because I think takedown to escape is 2-to-1 is fine. The ratio that's incongruent or could be would be a 4-point near fall, because that essentially equals 4 takedowns when you're going when a takedown is a +1, right? So if I turn you the second period, and I get 4 points for that, I would need to redeem it with probably 4, or if I ride out the period, 3 takedowns, right, to get those points back. That would be the ratio that you could have an issue with, I think.
And you know what, guys? These rules, you know what I wish they would do too? I wish there were rules based on dual meets. All these rules are on individual matches, which, in conjunction will, somewhat be related. But like the dual meet scoring, like that to me, like the dual meet scoring, that's where I'd love to see that's where I'd like to maybe see some more radical changes. Dual meet scoring.
Okay. Starting with stopping taking points away.
Well, when somebody wins 7-1 or 1-0 and it's the same team score, like that's dumb. Like what?
Yeah.
But that's another topic for another day. But we'll see. I mean,
let's get Bray.
Hope they work.
Yeah, Bray. I could tell you're about to say something.
I think what I'm excited about to see about these rules is the biggest problem when I watch a lot of folk style matches is there aren't a lot of matches that come down to the end where the result still feels in question. And that's a difference from freestyle, where in freestyle, if somebody's up by 2 with 45 seconds left, it's like, what's going to happen? Whereas in a folk style match, somebody's up by 2 with 45 seconds left. A lot of times it feels like I know what's going to happen in this match. There are some exceptions, but I like that this rule set as a whole, I think gives less opportunity for a guy that's up 2-0 on top to just ride out and waste time. It gives more opportunity for somebody that's down by 2, whether they're on top or on bottom or in neutral, to try to push for that, to either extend the match to OT or to get the win. And so I hope that these rules are going to create a little bit more, sense of the match being in question and engage fans. And so for me, it's like, I don't worry so much about, all right, has the result been wrong very often in the past? Is there somebody who should have won and should have lost? It's like, well, are people going to be feeling, that this match is in question for more often, and that's what I think is going to happen.
I mean, one of the things kind of along that point or along that thought process would be, in freestyle, if there is a incongruency in skill level, it's going to be over fast, right? You're going to get to 10 kind of quick if one guy's way better than the other person. And in folk style, sometimes matches, especially in the like 4 to 7 point range, and then in the like 9 to 14 point range, it just feels like they can drag on forever, because if in freestyle, if someone's up by 6 or 8, they're like, I'm about to end this. I'm going to go get him. I'm going to finish this off. And in folk style, if someone's up by like 7, that's a lot more points to end it. So like, and I actually, if someone would argue to me that bring the tech fall down in folk style, I'd have been like, okay.
Bring it to 10. Bring it to
10. But essentially, the 3-point takedown and the 4-point near fall, they bring us closer to 15 much, much quicker than a 2 and a 3-point near fall we would have had 5 years ago or whatever. So, I'm actually okay with that. I think sometimes the folk style matches can like drag on because it's really hard to get to 15.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. Brian, you bring up a good point. Ben, you bring up a good point. I mean, I think those could be some positives. So I hope, yeah, we'll see what happens. I hope they're great. I mean, why not? I mean, here's the analogy I would give on these rules to a certain extent, maybe a bad analogy, but when I vote for the president of the United States, okay, if my guy loses, I hope the guy that won does such a great job that I vote for him in 4 years. I'm not one of these guys where it's like, my guy didn't win, so I hope the other guy just sucks so we can all just pile on and tell everybody how bad he is. Like, so kind of the same way I look at these rules. Initially didn't love them. I still don't know if I love them, but I'm like, all right, this is the way it is. I'm going to support them. I'm going to get behind them. And for the good of the sport, I hope they're awesome. Hope they're great.
You're my president, Shane.